Alrighty, buddy. Sorry about that. Some freaking retard called me, or I was in the middle of talking to you guys. And yes, I said retard because that's how I express my anger. Just like this mother freaker. Anyways, so let's just recap real quick. All lives matter. You're being a racist. And I was just meant to lure you in, but let me just explain why. Because when you say all lives matter, you're forgetting that black lives matter. It's supposed to show the demonstrable evidence that black lives matter less than white lives in the criminal justice system. I agree. I think we actually should do something about the criminal justice system, but I don't think that necessarily having a problem with all lives matter is a good thing. So, for example, black lives matter. Yes, you're right. Yes. And then we should also have people protesting white lives matter. Yes, without a problem. But those white lives matter people, the only legitimate ones, in my opinion, are the ones that also agree white lives matter equally. So we all matter equally. And I think they have to be okay with black lives matter doing their thing too, because all protesters should be okay with the other party doing their thing. And the only way to fight that is with facts and not rhetoric and positive statements of truth towards your side or whatever, or just the truth, and let the chips fall where they may. It doesn't mean you have to have a side. You have to be like, oh, I think this or that. No, it doesn't work like that, people. That's the problem I have with this article. They talk down to you a little bit. They make you sound like, something's wrong with you, like you don't already know what they're trying to say. Like, no, but black lives matter too. It's like, yeah, we know. That's why we are all lives matter. Okay. Don't you think it's interesting how I can be so sure that it's only white people saying all lives matter? How can I make such sweeping generalizations? Basic logic. See, that's like saying, like, how can I be so sure that it's only white people that eat crackers with peanut butter on them? You know why? Because basic logic. Because I'm not dumb. Obviously, only white people do that. It's like, it doesn't really answer the question, but whatever. It's reasonable to expect that if you'd had to witness the gross injustices committed against those in non-white communities, you would understand why all lives matter is so harmful. You would understand that it is in fact you who is missing the point. Before I go any further, please see this. They're trying to psych you out. It's you, motherfucker. Before I go any further, please understand I'm not judging you for where you live and all that stuff. They live in conservative Northeast Florida. Well, you did conservative Northeast Florida an injustice by being around there. All lives matter rhetoric are people I know to have good hearts, people who work hard and love their families, people who want to see good triumph in the world. Ultimately, trying to appeal to that goodness in hopes that people like those of suburban Jacksonville can open their hearts beyond fear or pride. See, that's kind of segregating by saying, well, even besides saying Jacksonville, people can open their hearts, but then saying that they're fearful or prideful when they could be balanced in the middle and still not agree with you. And I think about the bigger forces at play and put that innate desire for goodness to use. I'm not defending murders of police like in the recent events in Dallas. I am against murder and injustice across the board. Full stop. What I am trying to do is indicate how maybe you haven't had the best seat in the house for the centuries-long movie called America's Treatment of Black People. So yeah, I like that because that sounds like an understatement when they said that. Centuries long. That made me gulp. That's how raw that shit was. Damn. And I think the best solution to this is to admit that we're already past that. Yeah. Just imagine how fast social media will go crazy if a black person was, first of all, if they were hung just for being black, if it was an official that did that, if someone was fired for being black, even if someone is equally not hired because someone else who was white, who was equally the same, was hired, and it actually was an even 50-50 chance, it would still be riots. I mean, eventually there would be riots, and this would be part of that collective. This one thing would not cause a riot, but it would make people angry. That's how you know that, yeah, there might even be some racism in the justice system, but at the same time, there actually is injustice. Let's see if there's injustice where white people are also discriminated against by those people who claim to be oppressed by them. See, this is not my bag. I don't know. I honestly think the best way to start over is, yes, change the laws. I guess with changing the laws, All Lives Matter seems to ignore that, and Black Lives Matter seems to want to change. All Lives Matter, as far as what I've seen on the news, is kind of more like it's just talking about like, oh, let's just keep the status quo because all lives matter. Then again, I do not. There is no racism in the law. So we don't need to change anything. Unless you want to argue that, oh, the marijuana laws are discriminating more against the lower demographics, the lower quality individuals. I don't, that's a different thing. I don't believe that's race, to be honest with you. And it gives cops the prejudice to arrest minorities more. In actuality, it gives the pretext to investigate, let's say, gun deals, freaking murder deals, and this is just in certain areas too. So it is a means of protecting the community as a whole. Is to say, oh, they're using drugs. Okay, so we'll use that as an excuse to raid them, and then we find all the guns, that they're selling with their scratched off VIN numbers or serial numbers. So that's a way to protect the community as well, and we shouldn't use racial judgmentalism in that disproportionately, but that's up to the discretion of the police officer. That's why I say, that's why I say it should be all lives matter as well as Black Lives Matter, because it's about interpretation of the law, not necessarily the inequality of the law itself. The laws on the books so far. Now, we could add laws to the books that further make it harder for people to discriminate, and I'm not against that. Let's hear some of that stuff. We can protest that. We can say all lives matter and Black Lives Matter, and that's why it's okay to add this new law that eliminates discrimination in a certain way. But I don't believe in changing the current laws. I think the ones that are on here, the books right now, are pretty clean cut. But if I'm wrong, leave a comment in the description. So let's see what else we got. Stands to reason that white America should be doing extra work to listen to understand. In doing this, it becomes apparent that Black Lives Matter is trying to say what you're saying, that all lives matter equally. You're just missing the many ways in which our country is not standing by this principle. When you say all lives matter, you're drawing attention away from a movement that would help push the country toward the version of itself where all lives do matter, actually do matter. In other words, when you say all lives matter, you are perpetuating toxic racism and in fact causing harm. See, that's where it starts getting to the real nitty gritty, where it's like this is what the person's really saying, or they're trying to like guilt trip you. They're being hyperbolic right here, because when you do, you're making it harder for the rest of the country to bring about positive change. There's no such thing as telling someone to stop doing something because you're making it harder for us to do the right thing. It's either ideas are good or they're not good, and both sides should be free to express themselves to the fullest extent of the law, which includes protesting Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter. You're broadcasting to others that change isn't necessary when it very much is. Okay. Oh my God, even more. Shoot. Okay, we're gonna watch an interview by Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Loves Matter. No, Black Lives Matter interview. We're gonna give them a fair shake, people. Let's do this. An interview with the founders. See, I'm not a fan of TED Talks, but we're gonna see what they say. TED Talks just seems like, I'm not even gonna say it. We'll just skip that and get into nitty gritty.
In every single context.
After this applause, we're going to start listening to what they have to say.
We need this because the global reality is that Black people are subject to all sorts of disparities in most of our most challenging issues of our day.
I think they should fight for equality of all, and it benefits them the most. It makes them benefit the most. But I think people don't like it because I believe in let's try raising the tide for all boats. Granted, you might think that means equal inequality because we're all going to go up equally in that unequal slant. But no, I don't mean that. I don't mean, white people, let's get more, and black people, let's get more, and well, anyway, so let's just forget that. What I'm trying to say is, yeah, I really like what they're doing. She seems like a nice girl, nice woman, and I really respect what their movement is. And I want them to understand that when they say that all lives matter is let's say not as important, I think we're all on the same page. That saying Black Lives Matter is saying that all lives matter. But the thing is, let's fight for rights. Let's fight for equality. Like, we should be able to explain that it's wrong to go to jail just because a person was smoking a little bit of weed and maybe they happen to be black or Hispanic. I think the real explanation should not be, because the color of their skin. I think it should be the debate should be a little bit more about the atrocities being done specifically, and they happen to be black or Hispanic or white or Asian. And I think fighting for equality will benefit them the most because they say they're being oppressed in an unequal manner than other people. And so they should fight for all lives matter equality that doesn't just benefit them but also benefits other races that are unequal, because that kind of is a way of disbanding from society as a whole, is to want your party, your race to do better, to become equal. But there are other races or sexes or anything that's being also discriminated on, and I think we're leaving them behind by recognizing the next issue, which is black lives need to be equal, and they're not, and they need to be equal. But then that doesn't fix all the other inequalities that come after that. Okay, what about What about transgender issues? You never got to fight for that. What about, and before this was women's rights, as far as the right to vote and stuff like that. And these are all just, I think actually, weren't black people able to vote? Black males were able to vote before white women, I believe. It was 3/5 of a vote around the slavery times, and women weren't allowed to vote until the 1920s. Ish. Some crazy stuff, people. Let's get back to this.
I think about issues like climate change and how 6 of the 10 worst impacted nations by climate change are actually on the continent of Africa. People are reeling from all sorts of unnatural disasters, displacing them from their ancestral homes.
Okay, well, she is promoting love, and she is doing that, so I like her.
And leaving them without a chance at making a decent living. We also see disasters like Hurricane Matthew, which recently wreaked havoc in many different nations but caused the most damage to Haiti. Haiti is the poorest country in this hemisphere, and its inhabitants are black people.
It doesn't matter what their skin color is. There's a lot of things for us to focus on. And I'm afraid that hearing this generality coming on right now, it's kind of making us forget about the other issues in the world. If we're solely focused on black people, then we're going to forget about homeless people. Then we're going to forget about women's rights. It's impossible to focus solely on one issue. And it's good to recognize that, yes, they have a plight that we need to focus on. But since every single race, sex, gender has that to deal with, we could have... This should be a discussion like 1,000 people talking. She'll talk for black lives, and then the next person's for white women, and the next one's for gay men, and the next one's for transgender, whatever. Then the next thing's for bestiality. I'm not comparing any of them to each other, but there's so many different types of people out there, like... weathermen. There you go. Weathermen need to have more say in this world. Let's get some more airtime for weathermen. And just everybody has a say on their own thing going on. It's kind of like we're walking down the street and we see, a bunch of different stores. We get to choose where we give our money to. It's like our attention. What cause do we believe in? Oh, Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. It's like seeing The Gap and then Tommy Hilfiger. And you're like, where are you going to spend your money? And it's like a zero-sum game in a way. You got to spend your money somewhere. Although you could spend your money equally. And I think it's important for like a Black Lives Matter supporter to also, on weekends, support All Lives Matter. Equally. Then on weekdays, you support Black Lives Matter. I think that's cool. And I'm not taking anything away from their cause. What I'm saying is they are noticed. And they are big enough of a demographic as to where I believe that they have an impact on this society. Especially now with the mediums that we have to communicate.
And what we're seeing in Haiti is that they were actually facing a number of challenges that even preceded this hurricane. They were reeling from the earthquake. They were reeling from cholera that was brought in by UN peacekeepers and still hasn't been eradicated. This is unconscionable. And this would not happen if this nation didn't have a population that was black. And we have to be real about that. But what's most heartening right now is that despite these challenges, what we're seeing is that there's a network of Africans all across the continent who are rising up and fighting back and demanding climate justice.
So climate justice or racial justice or financial justice, as far as like we should be able to get loans from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, that would be important too. So there's lots of things to rally for, and I think what she's doing is great, and I hope what she's doing is making a difference, and I like it. I like what she's saying, particularly, not necessarily what a lot of other people who ride on the message. It's kind of like the lower you go down the tier, it's kind of like a company, the less people care about their job, the less people care about their cause, but they identify with it for whatever reason. So you talk to your average person that's holding the sign, it's like you're talking to the basic employee at the store, Oh, where is this from? I don't fucking know, I just work here. Yeah, you got to talk to the manager. You got to talk to the owner, the creator, the investors, if you really want to get an idea for the vision. So they're doing good. And like I said, all lives matter as well. Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter, neither should get people angry. That's the whole point. Saying Black Lives Matter should not get All Lives Matter people angry. All right, guys, that's what we got for you so far.